The cumulative frequency distribution of the volumes of petrol needed to fill the tank of 150 different vehicles is shown. How many vehicles were recorded in the class 31 to 40? How many vehicles were recorded in the class 31 to 40? Now, we have here the lower class boundary, upper class boundaries, and of course we have the limits right there. We know that those values will have nothing to do with the number of vehicles recorded in any class. As a matter of fact, in any frequency distribution, it is the frequency that tells us the number of each item. Why frequency? Because in a data set, frequency will tell us how frequent a particular value occurs in the data set, and that is why it is called frequency. It is also, of course, the number of each item or the specific item. Now we need to tell how many vehicles were recorded in the class 31 to 40. Now we do not have the number of vehicles in the particular classes, and that might not be too obvious by looking at the data set. As a matter of fact, someone might want to choose a value here which is from the cumulative frequency column as our answer, but that is not going to be correct, because we know that cumulative frequency is an accumulation of the frequency as we traverse the table. So it is not going to be the number of any item in particular. Therefore, in order for us to tell the number of vehicles in any class, we will have to have the actual frequency value, which we do not have as yet. In calculating the frequency values, we may recall how cumulative frequency values are calculated. Because we have cumulative frequency values here, we do not have the frequency values. Now, in order to arrive at the frequency values, we might reflect on how we calculate the cumulative frequencies when we have the frequencies. Well, this is an atypical problem given by the CXE CSEC examiners, where we have the cumulative frequencies and we are required to find the actual frequencies. We don't see one of these occurring quite often. Each frequency value may therefore be calculated by subtracting the previous cumulative frequency value from the present one. And we are taking a look at how we calculate your cumulative frequency value. The present cumulative frequency value, I'm just going to choose one. The present cumulative frequency value, say 129. How do we arrive at this value? For us to arrive at this value, we will take the frequency value and we will add that to the previous cumulative frequency value. And that is how we will arrive at the present cumulative frequency value. So the present cumulative frequency value is equal to the frequency value plus the previous cumulative frequency value. That might just seem to be a mouthful, but let us see if we can present it here in a simpler fashion. Let's say we are calculating the cumulative frequency. What will happen? We will begin by saying the cumulative frequency value is the present frequency value. That is the beginning. What will we do next? Next, we will add the other frequency value to the previous cumulative frequency value and we will have the next cumulative frequency value. And what do we do for this one? We will add the present, for this one, we will add the present frequency value to the previous cumulative frequency value. And that is how we generally find the cumulative frequency values in a table. There's no mystery to it. It is like a regular thing for us in CXC CSEC. It is just that on this occasion we are required to find the frequency values if we have the cumulative frequency values. Now, some might want to just look at this one and say, well, we have 24 here. What do we add to 24 to give 59? That will go here. What do we add to 59 to give 101? And so on. So we will accumulate the frequency like that. When we accumulate the frequency like that, then we will be finding the cumulative frequencies. So the present cumulative frequency is equal to the present frequency plus the previous cumulative frequency value. So that if we need to calculate the frequency, which is what we need now, we need the frequency, so make frequency the subject of the formula. So we are about to make frequency the subject of the formula. By so doing, we will be able to calculate the value of each frequency. So make frequency the subject of the formula. It is the same formula that we have. Now we will make it the subject of the formula. Now, this exercise is not an exercise in transposition. If we divert our attention too much to transposition, then we might lose the essence of the problem that we are solving. It is just that it requires us to make a transposition, and we have done that. So for the actual transposition or the concepts of transposition, we have other mathematics resources that will clarify all of those steps. So frequency is equal to present cumulative frequency minus previous cumulative frequency. And we know that we do not have a previous cumulative frequency for 24. So we know that will be equal to 0. So it's going to be 24 minus 0 will come here. Then 59 minus 24 will go here. Then 101 minus 59, and that will go there. Then 129 minus 100 will go there, and so on. So as a matter of fact, in actuality, it is a very simple process. It is just that we are highlighting it as a matter of concept development, because there is a concept to it, there's a mathematical process to it, and we are also giving a description of it. We will proceed to calculate the frequency values. That is what we are going to do on the next slide. And as a matter of fact, the process is very simple, even if the expression looks a bit abstract. So there is no previous cumulative frequency value for the first row. Or we may say that the previous cumulative frequency value is equal to 0. So 24 minus 0 is equal to 24. Then what will go here? It is a simple process. 59 minus 24. The others will be calculated as described on the previous slide. And how was it described on the previous slide? That the present frequency value is going to be equal to the present cumulative frequency value minus the previous cumulative frequency value. So what do we do? For this one, it is going to be 59 minus 24. The process is simple. 35. And we imagine the next one is going to be 101 minus 59. It is simple as that. Although it might sound somewhat cumbersome to say that the present frequency value is equal to the present cumulative frequency value minus the previous cumulative frequency value. That sounds like more than a mouthful. And it sounds as if it is not easily internalized. But the practicality of it is quite simple, and we may just go straight ahead and make the calculations. And what do we say for the next one? 129, and from that we are going to subtract 101. And then 150, and from that we will subtract 29. Right, so all of those values are easily calculated, and it is the practicality of it is very simple. Now that we have the completed table, all of the calculations will be a breeze, because we have all of the values, all of the necessary values in the table. We also have the values on which to construct the histogram, because later on in this problem we will be required to construct a histogram, which is a representation of continuous data. But we'll not go into that immediately. We're just going to be answering the part of the problem that we are required to do right here and now. We have all of the values. So the statement of the problem requires the number of vehicles which were recorded in the class 31 to 40. How many vehicles were recorded in the class 31 to 40? So we highlight all of the data associated with that class 31 to 40. The number of vehicles in that class is the associated frequency value, not the associated cumulative frequency value, but the associated frequency value. So we will go to the frequency column that we have done already. We have gone to the frequency column, and we will identify in that class the associated frequency value. Which turns out to be 42. It's not difficult. We are in the class 31 to 40, and we are looking at the associated frequency value, not cumulative frequency value. Quite often, candidates mistakenly use the cumulative frequency. It is less likely that we would make such a mistake because all of the relevant values, including all frequency values, were already calculated. So students would make a mistake like that. Well, maybe some would even make the same mistake if the frequency values were given. But if the frequency values were not initially given, it is more likely that students will make a mistake and use the associated cumulative frequency value. So now that we have all of the frequency values calculated, it is going to reduce the likelihood of making a mistake by using the cumulative frequency value. Such a mistake could have been made in a haste. When students see the table, no frequency value, they will not even consider that the frequency values are not there. They just do that in a haste, right away, very quickly, and they will just, because they are in a haste, hastily write down the incorrect value, which they would have received from the cumulative frequency column. Such a mistake could have been made in a haste. A candidate may just pick an associated cumulative frequency value and neglect the need to calculate the frequency value. So that is the kind of mistake that students are likely to make in solving this particular problem. Teachers and instructors. Get unlimited access to teaching aids for your virtual classrooms at richardjamesmathematicsresources.com. Also, this is the best place for the hearing impaired to master mathematics as long as you are literate.